The transport ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace above Viridian Prime. Nari pressed her face against the small window and watched the gleaming world grow larger. The planet looked perfect. Too perfect. No storms, no wild forests, no dangerous animals. Everything was controlled and safe. Nari touched the acceptance letter in her pocket. After 3 years of applications and tests, she was finally here. The Galactic Military Academy had accepted its first human student in over 100 years. Her parents had cried when she left Earth. They knew what this meant for all humans in the galaxy. The docking bay was enormous. Ships from dozens of worlds sat in neat rows. Nari grabbed her simple bag and walked down the ramp. Other new students moved around her, but they all stopped and stared when they saw her. She was shorter than most of them, with dark hair and brown eyes that seemed too sharp. A tall, crystal-like being approached her. Its body was pale blue and seemed to glow from within. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "You must be the human," it said. "I am Commander Yule. I will show you to your quarters." Nari followed Commander Yule through the academy halls. The walls were white and smooth. Everything was clean and bright. Other students watched her pass. She heard whispers in languages. She didn't understand, but their tone was clear. They were not happy to see her. "Your room is here," Commander Yule said, stopping at a door. "You will share with Cadet Haijin from New Soul Colony. She is also human, so you should get along well." The room was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 lockers. A girl with short black hair sat on one bed, reading from a data pad. She looked up when Nari entered. "You must be the Earth girl," Heejin said in perfect standard Galactic. "I'm Park Heejin. I heard about you. First Earth human in the Academy for a century." "That's right," Nari said, setting down her bag. "How long have you been here?" 2 years, Heejin replied. "Colonial humans like me are more accepted. We're considered civilized because we grew up around other species. Earth humans are different. They call your planet a death world." Nari sat on her bed. "What does that mean?" "It means they think you're dangerous," Heejin explained. "Earth has high gravity, predators, diseases, and natural disasters. The other species think it makes humans too aggressive, too violent." Before Nari could respond, Commander Yule returned. "Time for your first combat assessment," it said. "All new students must demonstrate their fighting abilities." The combat training hall was huge. Mats covered the floor and various weapons hung on the walls. About 50 students stood in groups, sorted by species. The tall, glowing Laisari stood together. The 6-limbed, insect-like Vrathan formed another group. The blue-skinned, web-footed Nereid clustered near the water stations. Nari stood alone. "Welcome, new students," announced a large Vrathan with scars across its shell. "I am Instructor Kalneth. Today you will spar with current students to show your skill level." A Lysari student named Zekthul stepped forward. He was tall even for his species, with silver markings that showed his royal blood. "I volunteer to test the Deathworlder," he said with a cold smile. "No," Instructor Kalneth said quickly. "Humans require special consideration. Nari will spar with Cadet Sulmin." Sulmin was a Nereid, smaller than the others but still larger than Nari. His blue skin was wet from the moisture sprayers, and his large eyes blinked slowly as he approached. "Begin," Instructor Kalneth called. Sulmin moved first, reaching out with long arms to grab Nari. But she was already moving. Her body twisted away from his grip, and her hand struck his wrist. The sound was sharp and loud. Sulmin cried out and pulled back his arm. The protective bracelet on his wrist had cracked. "Stop!" Instructor Kalneth shouted. "Sulmin, are you injured?" The Nereid held his wrist carefully. "She hit too hard," he said. "The safety gear couldn't absorb the impact." All the students stared at Nari. She had barely moved, but she had broken military-grade protection with a simple strike. The room was completely quiet. "This is exactly what we expected," Zekthul said loudly. "Deathworlders don't know how to control themselves. They only know violence." "That's not true," Nari said, her voice steady. "I was holding back." "Holding back?" Zekthul laughed. "You injured Sulmin with a simple block." Instructor Kalneth stepped between them. "Enough. Nari, you will need additional training before sparring with other students. Report to the conditioning rooms for individual practice." As the other students returned to sparring, Nari walked to the side of the hall. She watched them fight with careful, precise movements. Every strike was measured. Every block was textbook perfect. They fought like they were dancing, not like they were trying to survive. Commander Yule appeared beside her. "This is why humans were removed from military service," it said quietly. "Your species doesn't understand civilized combat." "What do you mean?" Nari asked. "You fight like you're trying to kill," Commander Yule explained. "Other species fight to demonstrate skill, to show honor, to prove worth. Humans fight to win, to survive. It makes the others uncomfortable." Nari watched Zekthul spar with a Vrathan student. Their movements were beautiful but slow, predictable. "Is that wrong?" she asked. "According to galactic law, yes," Commander Yule said. "War should be controlled, orderly. Humans bring chaos." "What if chaos is what wins wars?" Nari asked. "Commander." Yule was quiet for a long moment. "That," it said finally, "is exactly what they're afraid of." That night, Nari lay in her bed thinking about the day. Hyejin was asleep, breathing softly. Through the window, Nari could see the Academy's training facilities. Somewhere in there were combat simulators with mechanical opponents, bots that wouldn't break if she hit them too hard. She thought about Earth, with its storms and predators and endless dangers. She thought about humanity's long climb from prey to predator. Other species had evolved on safe worlds with few threats. They had time to develop art, philosophy, and honor codes. Humans had evolved to survive. Maybe that made them different. Maybe it made them dangerous. But Nari knew something the others didn't understand yet. Humans didn't fight because they were violent. They fought because they had something worth protecting. And that made all the difference. Tomorrow she would find those combat bots. Tomorrow she would show them what a real warrior looked like. The notice appeared on Nari's door 3 days after the sparring incident. Official Academy letterhead. Director Velnoth's signature at the bottom. The words were simple and clear. Cadet Lee Nari is hereby banned from all combat training involving living opponents. Nari read it twice, then crumpled the paper in her fist. Hyejin looked over from her desk where she was studying tactical theory. "They actually did it," Hyejin said softly. "I hoped they wouldn't." "What happens now?" Nari asked. "You train alone. Physical conditioning, weapons theory, strategy classes. But no fighting with other students." Hyejin turned back to her datapad. "Maybe it's for the best. You scared them pretty badly." Nari sat on her bed and smoothed out the notice. "Sulmin wasn't badly hurt. His wrist guard just cracked." "That's not the point," Hyejin said. "You did something they couldn't predict or control. That terrifies them more than actual injury." Later that morning, Nari reported to Director Velnoth's office. The old Lysari sat behind a desk made of some kind of glowing crystal. His pale blue skin had deep silver lines that marked his age. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "Cadet Nari, please sit." Nari remained standing. "Sir, I request an explanation for this ban." Director Velnoth's large eyes studied her carefully. "You injured another student during a basic sparring exercise. Our safety protocols couldn't handle your intensity." "I held back, sir. On Earth, that would have been considered a gentle tap." "That's exactly the problem," the director said, leaning forward. "You come from a world where gentle taps can break bones. We cannot allow that mindset in our training programs. Nari felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice level. Then why accept me at all, sir? Director Velnoth was quiet for a long moment. Political pressure, he admitted. The Earth government has been requesting academy admission for decades. We hoped one student might prove that humans could adapt to civilized standards. And if I can't? Then you will be the last human admitted. For another century? Nari left the office with her jaw clenched tight. As she walked through the halls, other students whispered and pointed. News traveled fast in the academy. Everyone knew the Deathworlder had been banned from fighting. In the cafeteria, she sat alone with her meal. The food was perfectly balanced. Nutrition? But it tasted like nothing. She missed Earth food, messy, flavorful, unpredictable. Mind if I sit here? Nari looked up to see a young man about her age. He had the soft features of someone raised in low gravity, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. You're the tactical analysis student, she said. Park Jin-woo. That's right. He sat down across from her. Also, the only other human who will talk to you right now. Why are you willing to talk to me? Jin-woo smiled. Because I'm from New Seoul Colony. We're border world humans. We know what it's like to be different. He took a bite of his meal and made a face. Also, I think what happened to you is wrong. How so? I've been studying the combat records, Jin-woo said, lowering his voice. Do you know why humans were really removed from galactic military service? Nari shook her head. The official reason is aggression and unpredictability. But I found the actual combat reports in the deep archives. Jin-woo leaned closer. Humans didn't lose their temper or attack civilians. They won battles that were supposed to be impossible. What do you mean? 70 years ago, a human unit was trapped on Kepler 442b, surrounded by enemy forces, outnumbered 10-1, no supplies, no reinforcements. According to military doctrine, they should have surrendered or died honorably. But they didn't. They broke out, Jin-woo said with admiration. Not only broke out, but destroyed the entire enemy base and captured their commanding officers. They used tactics no military academy teaches: guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, asymmetric strategy. Nari felt a chill down her spine. The enemy didn't expect it. Nobody expected it. The human unit's own allies were shocked. That's when the galaxy realized something important. Humans don't fight like everyone else. So they banned us. They banned you because you're too good at winning, Jin-woo said. Not too violent, too effective. That afternoon, Nari found herself in the academy archives. Jin-woo had given her access codes, and she spent hours reading old reports. Battle after battle where human units had turned certain defeat into victory through unconventional tactics. She read about Sergeant Kim Min-ho, who defeated an entire Vrathan strike team using nothing but smoke grenades and misdirection. About Captain Lee So-young, who captured an enemy starship by pretending to surrender and then fighting her way to the bridge. About Lieutenant Colonel Park Dong-hyun, who ended a 3-year siege by convincing the enemy that their own allies had betrayed them. None of these humans had been brutal or savage. They had been smart, creative, and willing to do whatever it took to protect innocent lives. As evening approached, Nari made her way to the training facilities. Most students were at dinner, so the halls were empty. She found the Advanced Combat Simulation Chamber, a large room filled with mechanical training opponents. The dueling bots stood in silent rows. Each one was humanoid but clearly artificial. Their movements would be precise, calculated, and completely predictable. Most importantly, they wouldn't break if she hit them at full strength. Unauthorized personnel detected, announced a mechanical voice. Please exit the facility. Override. Student access, Nari said, using the codes Jin-woo had shared with her. Access granted. Please select training program. Nari looked at the list of options. Basic sparring, intermediate combat, advanced tactics, Elite Warrior Simulation. She scrolled all the way to the bottom and found something interesting. Unstructured. Combat assessment. Warning, extremely dangerous. Begin unstructured combat assessment, she said. 3 dueling bots activated and moved toward her. Their red optical sensors glowed as they analyzed her stance, her breathing, her posture. They were programmed with thousands of years of combat data from dozens of species, but they had never fought a human. The first bot attacked with a textbook Lasari technique, graceful and precise. Nari stepped aside and struck its arm joint. The metal dented under her fist. The second bot tried a Vrathan pincer movement using multiple limbs to trap her. Nari dropped low and swept its legs, sending it crashing to the floor. The third bot attempted a Nereid grappling technique, reaching for her with calculated precision. Nari grabbed its arm and used its own momentum to throw it across the room. All 3 bots reset and attacked again. This time they tried to adapt using different combinations of techniques, but they were still predictable. They still fought like their programming told them to fight. Nari fought like a human. She feinted, misdirected, and struck from unexpected angles. She used the environment, throwing broken bot parts as distractions. She made them fight each other by positioning herself carefully. After 20 minutes, all 3 bots were disabled. Assessment complete, the mechanical voice announced. Performance rating, unprecedented, no match found in combat database. Nari sat on the floor, breathing hard but smiling. For the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt like herself. Not a dangerous Deathworlder, not a banned student. Just a warrior doing what warriors do. She would come back tomorrow night. And the night after that. If they wouldn't let her train with other students, she would train with machines. She would get stronger, faster, better. And someday, she would show them what humans were really capable of. For 2 weeks, Nari trained alone in the simulation chamber. Every night after dinner, while other students studied or socialized, she fought the dueling bots. Jinwoo helped by watching the corridors and warning her if any instructors came near. At first, the training was frustrating. The bots were programmed with perfect technique from every known species. They never made mistakes, never got tired, never lost focus. Nari won through raw strength and speed, but barely. Slowly, she began to understand something important. The bots fought exactly like the alien students. They used the same techniques, the same strategies, the same predictable patterns. They were perfect examples of civilized combat. But perfect technique had a weakness. It was too perfect. "You're getting better," Jinwoo said one night as they walked back to their quarters. "I watched through the window. Those bots couldn't touch you in the last session." "I'm not getting better," Nari said thoughtfully. "I'm getting more human." "What do you mean?" "Watch how Zekthul fights tomorrow in class. Watch all of them. They do exactly what their instructors taught them. Every move is from a textbook." Jinwoo frowned. "That's good, isn't it? Proper technique?" "Not if your enemy can read the textbook too." The next day, Nari sat in the observation area during combat class. She couldn't participate, but she could watch. The students moved through their exercises with mechanical precision. Each species had their own fighting style, but within each style, every individual fought the same way. Lasari used flowing, dance-like movements with an emphasis on grace and honor. Vrathan employed multi-limbed techniques focused on overwhelming opponents through superior positioning. Nereid preferred grappling and submission holds that used their aquatic flexibility. All effective, all predictable. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Nari turned to see Instructor Kalneth, the scarred Vrathan who ran the combat program. His 6 arms were folded as he watched his students practice. Beautiful, Nari agreed, but not practical. Instructor Kalneth's compound eyes focused on her. "Explain." "They're all fighting the same fight their great-grandparents fought," Nari said carefully. Perfect technique passed down through generations. But what happens when they face something new? New? The instructor sounded amused. There are only so many ways to fight, human. We have perfected them all. Have you? Nari asked. Then, why are humans banned from sparring? Instructor Koloneth was quiet for a long moment. Because humans don't follow the rules. Maybe the rules are wrong. That evening, instead of going straight to the simulation chamber, Nari visited the academy library. She searched for information about the architect Keth, the being who had designed the dueling bots. What she found was disturbing. Architect Keth had been a genius, but also obsessed with creating the perfect warrior. The dueling bots weren't just training tools. They were Keth's attempt to prove that artificial beings could fight better than any living creature. The most advanced bots had never been defeated. Not by academy instructors, not by military champions, not by anyone. You're reading about Keth? Jinwoo said, sliding into the seat beside her. These bots, Nari said, pointing at the technical specifications. They're not just programmed with combat techniques. They learn and adapt. That's what makes them so dangerous. Each fight teaches them something new. Nari studied the schematics more carefully. But they can only learn what they're programmed to understand. Lissari techniques, Vrathan techniques, Nereid techniques. Right. All known combat forms. But not human combat forms, Nari said slowly. Humans were banned before. Keth could study them. Jinwoo's eyes widened. You're thinking about fighting the advanced bots. I'm thinking about showing everyone what humans can really do. Nari, no one has ever beaten the elite dueling bots. They're essentially undefeatable. By alien standards, Nari said with a smile. 3 days later, Nari stood in the simulation chamber, facing a single advanced dueling bot. This one was different from the training models, taller, faster, with adaptive armor and integrated weapon systems. Beginning combat assessment, the mechanical voice announced. Warning, this unit is designed for expert-level opponents only. And the bot moved like liquid metal, flowing between fighting styles as it attacked. First Lissari grace, then Vrathan aggression, then Nereid flexibility. It was everything the other species could do, combined into one perfect fighter. Nari dodged its first attack and immediately realized her mistake. This bot had been watching her previous sessions. It knew her patterns, her preferred movements, her timing. The second attack nearly took her head off. Nari rolled aside and tried a feint that had worked against the training bots. The advanced bot saw through it instantly and countered with a combination that sent her sprawling. This isn't working, she muttered, getting back to her feet. The bot pressed its attack, using techniques she recognized from textbooks. But something clicked in Nari's mind. She stopped trying to fight, like she had been trained. She stopped thinking about proper technique and honor and rules. She started fighting like a human. The next time the bot attacked, Nari threw dirt in its optical sensors. There was no dirt in the clean simulation chamber, but she grabbed a handful of metal shavings from a damaged training dummy. The bot paused, trying to clear its vision. Nari didn't attack its body or limbs like it expected. She attacked its feet, destabilizing its perfect stance. When it adapted to her low attacks, she threw broken equipment at its head. When it defended against projectiles, she used the distraction to attack from an unexpected angle. She fought dirty. She fought mean. She fought like someone whose ancestors had clawed their way up from the bottom of the food chain. The bot couldn't adapt because it didn't understand. Its programming told it that combat was noble, structured, predictable. It had never been taught to fight an opponent who would do anything to win. After 30 minutes, the advanced dueling bot lay in pieces on the simulation chamber floor. Assessment complete, the mechanical voice announced. Error in combat database. Unable to classify fighting style. Recording session for analysis. Nari sat down hard, exhausted but victorious. She had just done something no other student in academy history had accomplished. Impressive! Nari spun around to see Instructor Kalneth standing in the doorway. His compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights as he looked at the destroyed bot. "How long have you been watching?" Nari asked. "Long enough," the instructor said, stepping into the chamber. "I've been studying humans since you arrived. Your people fascinate me." "Why?" "Because you fight like my ancestors did," Instructor Kalneth said. "Before we became civilized, before we developed honor codes and rules of engagement, you fight to survive." "Is that bad?" "That depends," the instructor said, examining the broken bot. "Do you fight to survive, or do you fight to protect others?" Nari thought about her parents on Earth, about Jinwoo helping her despite the risks, about all the humans who had been banned from serving their galaxy. "Both," she said. Instructor Kalneth nodded slowly. "Then you might be exactly what this galaxy needs." The announcement came during morning assembly. Director Velnoth stood at the podium, his crystalline form catching the light as he spoke to the gathered students. "In 1 month, this academy will host the Galactic Combat Trials," he said. "Representatives from all major worlds will attend. The top students from each species will compete against our most advanced dueling systems." Excited whispers filled the assembly hall. The combat trials happened only every 5 years and were considered the most prestigious military competition in known space. 3 students will be selected from each species, Director Velnoth continued. They will face challenges designed to test not only combat skill, but tactical thinking, adaptability, and honor under pressure. Nari listened from the back of the hall where the banned students sat. Beside her, a Vrathan cadet who had been expelled for excessive aggression shifted uncomfortably. "The final challenge," Director Velnoth said, "will be individual combat against the architect Keth's 3 most advanced creations, Apex, Nexus, and Terminus. These machines represent the pinnacle of artificial warrior technology." More whispers. Everyone knew about Keth's masterpieces. They were legendary for being unbeatable. "No single cadet has ever defeated one of these units," the director continued. "To face all 3 simultaneously would be suicide. Therefore, competitors will face them one at a time, with medical support standing by." After assembly, Nari walked to her theoretical combat class. As she passed through the corridors, she overheard conversations about the trials. Students were already planning their strategies, discussing which techniques would work best against artificial opponents. In class, Instructor Moltar, an elderly Nereid, discussed the history of the combat trials. "The purpose," he explained, in his bubbling voice, "is to demonstrate the peak capabilities of civilized warfare, honor, technique, and strategic thinking in perfect harmony." A Lasari student raised her hand. "What about the human, Instructor? Will she be allowed to compete?" All heads turned toward Nari. Instructor Moltar's large eyes blinked slowly. "Cadet Nari is currently restricted from combat activities," he said carefully. "Good thing," muttered Zekthul from the front row. "Can you imagine a Deathworlder in the trials? She'd probably try to bite the robots." Laughter filled the classroom. Nari felt her face burn, but she kept her expression neutral. "The trials are about demonstrating the best of what civilized species can achieve," Zekthul continued. "Primitive violence has no place there." "That's enough," Instructor Moltar said, but the damage was done. The other students were nodding in agreement. After class, Nari found Jinwoo waiting for her in the corridor. His face was angry. "Did you hear what they said in my tactical analysis class?" he asked. "They're calling the trials a celebration of evolved combat doctrine. They're specifically contrasting it with primitive Deathworld savagery." "Let them talk," Nari said, but her jaw was tight. "This is about more than just the trials," Jinwoo said as they walked toward the cafeteria. "I've been monitoring galactic news feeds. There's talk of formally classifying humans as incompatible with civilized military service. Nari stopped, walking. What does that mean? It means no human would ever be allowed in any galactic military force. Ever. We'd be permanently classified as too dangerous for cooperation. That evening, Nari trained harder than ever against the dueling bots. Her secret sessions had become more intense as she faced increasingly difficult opponents. Tonight, she was fighting two advanced bots simultaneously. The machines coordinated their attacks, forcing her to defend against multiple angles while looking for openings to counter. It was exhausting work, but Nari was getting better at reading their patterns. "You're developing your own fighting style," came a voice from the observation window. Nari glanced up to see Instructor Kalnith watching from the control booth. She had grown accustomed to his presence during her training sessions. "It's not really a style," she said, ducking under a bot's swing. "It's more like organized chaos." "Explain." Nari disabled one bot with a joint lock and turned to face the second. "Every other species fights like they're performing a dance. Beautiful, but predictable. Humans fight like we're solving a puzzle under pressure." She feinted left, then struck right, sending the second bot crashing into the wall. "We adapt in real time," she continued. "We use whatever works. We don't care if it's honorable or traditional. And you think this makes humans superior fighters?" Nari considered the question carefully. "Not superior, different, but that difference might be exactly what this galaxy needs." "How so?" "What happens when you face an enemy that doesn't follow your rules? What happens when perfect technique isn't enough?" Instructor Kalnith was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The trials are in 3 weeks. I know. Director Velnoth is under pressure to demonstrate that the Academy's standards are correct, that humans truly are incompatible with civilized military service." Nari looked up at the instructor. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that you might have an opportunity to prove otherwise." The next morning, Nari found an official message waiting on her door. Not a ban or restriction this time. An invitation. "The Academy Review Board requests your presence at a special hearing regarding your status as a cadet." Nari dressed in her formal uniform and made her way to the administration building. The review board consisted of 5 beings: Director Velnoth, 2 other Lissari administrators, a Vrathan military advisor, and a Nereid diplomat. "Cadet Nari," Director Velnoth began, "your presence at this academy has created complications." "Yes, sir. The upcoming combat trials represent an opportunity to demonstrate the highest standards of galactic military tradition. Your restricted status raises questions about our commitment to those standards." Nari remained silent, waiting. "Therefore," the director continued, "we have decided to offer you a choice. You may withdraw from the Academy voluntarily with no mark against your record, or you may attempt to prove that humans deserve a place in galactic military service by participating in a special demonstration during the trials." The Vrathan advisor leaned forward. "You would face the 3 master dueling units, Apex, Nexus, and Terminus, simultaneously." "And blindfolded," added the Nereid diplomat. Nari felt her heart race. "Blindfolded?" "To demonstrate that human combat ability isn't simply a matter of superior reflexes or strength," Director Velnoth explained. "If you can defeat 3 unbeatable opponents while deprived of your primary sense, it would prove that humans possess truly unique combat capabilities. And if I fail? Then humanity will be permanently classified as incompatible with civilized military service." Nari looked at each board member in turn. They expected her to refuse. They thought the challenge was impossible. Maybe it was. But she thought about all the humans who had been banned from serving their galaxy. She thought about Jin Wu and Hyejin, and every other human who dreamed of being a protector instead of an outcast. "I accept," she said. The board members exchanged glances. Director Velnoth nodded slowly. "Very well. The demonstration will take place during the final day of the trials. Representatives from every major world will be watching. No pressure, Nari muttered. Indeed, the director said with something that might have been a smile. No pressure at all. The combat trials had drawn thousands of spectators from across the galaxy. The Academy's main arena buzzed with excitement as representatives from dozens of worlds watched the final competitions. Nari could hear the crowd from her preparation room beneath the arena floor. You don't have to do this, Jin Woo said for the 100th time. He sat beside her, nervously checking his data pad. We could leave right now. Find a transport off-world. And go where? Nari asked, adjusting the blindfold around her neck. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about every human who wants to serve. He-Jin paced back and forth across the small room. The three master units have never been defeated individually, let alone together. And you'll be fighting blind. I've been preparing for this, Nari said calmly. 2 weeks of blindfolded training. I know what I'm doing. Do you? He-Jin stopped pacing and looked at her. Because the entire future of human-galactic relations depends on the next 30 minutes. A knock came at the door. Instructor Kalneth entered, his scarred carapace gleaming under the lights. It's time, he said. The arena is ready. Nari stood and pulled the blindfold over her eyes. The world went black. Immediately, her other senses sharpened. She could hear the crowd's murmur above, feel the vibrations of movement through the floor, smell the metal and ozone scent of the dueling bots. Remember, Instructor Kalneth said quietly, they're expecting you to fight like other species. Predictable, honorable, safe. Good thing I'm not other species, Nari replied. They walked through the corridors toward the arena entrance. Nari let her friends guide her, but she was already shifting into combat mindset. Her breathing slowed, her heart rate steadied. Her muscles relaxed but remained ready. The arena doors opened and sound crashed over them like a wave. Thousands of voices speaking in dozens of languages. The announcer's voice boomed over the noise. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, we present the final demonstration of these galactic combat trials. Cadet Lee Na-Ri of Earth will attempt what no warrior in galactic history has achieved. The crowd grew louder. Na-Ri heard hissing, clicking, and bubbling sounds that meant different things to different species. Some were excited, some were skeptical, many were hostile. She will face the three master dueling units created by the legendary architect Keth. Apex, Nexus, and Terminus have never been defeated in single combat. Today, they will fight together. Nari felt Jinwoo squeeze her shoulder. You've got this, he whispered. Furthermore, the announcer continued, to prove that human combat ability transcends mere physical advantages, Cadet Na-Ri will fight completely blindfolded. The crowd's reaction was immediate and loud. Some cheered, others jeered. Many simply gasped in disbelief. Nari walked onto the arena floor, guided by the sound of her footsteps on the metal surface. The space felt enormous around her. She could hear the mechanical hum of the three master units as they powered up. Begin combat assessment, announced the familiar mechanical voice of the arena's system. The blindfold blocked all light, but Nari had learned to fight in complete darkness. She tilted her head, listening to the subtle sounds that told her where her opponents were positioned. Apex was directly ahead, its servos whining softly as it moved. Nexus was to her left, its heavier frame creating deeper vibrations with each step. Terminus circled to her right, nearly silent, but not quite. They attacked simultaneously. Nari felt the air displacement as Apex's arms swept toward her head. She ducked and rolled left, directly into Nexus's path, but instead of trying to avoid the second bot, she used its own momentum against it, grabbing its arm and redirecting its strike toward Apex. The two bots collided with a crash of metal. The crowd gasped. Terminus attacked from behind while its companions recovered. Nari heard the whistle of air over metal and threw herself sideways. She landed hard but rolled smoothly back to her feet. The three bots reset and coordinated their next assault. They had learned from the first exchange. This time, they spread out, forcing Nari to defend against attacks from multiple angles. But Nari had learned too. She understood now how each bot moved, how they communicated with each other, how they adapted their programming. Most importantly, she understood their weakness. They fought like the species that programmed them, honorably, predictably, with respect for the rules of engagement. Nari fought like a human. When Apex attacked with a perfect Lissari sword technique, Nari didn't. Defend against the blade. She attacked the bot's wrist joint, disrupting its grip and sending the weapon flying across the arena. When Nexus attempted a Vrathan grappling maneuver, Nari didn't try to escape the hold. She used the bot's own leverage to throw it into the arena wall. When Terminus employed Nereid submission holds, Nari didn't submit. She bit down on its metal arm, knowing the unexpected action would confuse its tactical programming. The crowd had gone completely silent. They were watching something unprecedented. A single warrior fighting blind, dismantling three unbeatable opponents through tactics no military academy taught. But the bots were learning too. They began to adapt, trying new combinations, abandoning their programmed fighting styles for more effective techniques. That's when Nari revealed her true advantage. Humans didn't just adapt, they innovated. She grabbed broken pieces of arena equipment and used them as improvised weapons. She feinted attacks that had no purpose except to confuse the bot's pattern recognition. She fought in ways that no computer could predict because they made no logical sense. Apex tried to analyze her movements and failed. Its programming couldn't categorize throw sand in opponents' optical sensors because there was no sand in the arena. But Nari found metal filings that worked just as, well, Nexus attempted to counter her grappling techniques and couldn't. Its database contained no reference for use your own weight to snap the opponent's stabilizing joint, because no civilized species fought that way. Terminus calculated the probability of her next attack and got it wrong. Its tactical projections didn't include pretend to retreat, then attack from a direction that makes no strategic sense, because only humans were crazy enough to try it. One by one, the master dueling units fell. Not because Nari was stronger or faster than them, because she was more human. When the last bot shut down, the arena was completely silent. Nari stood in the center of the combat space, breathing hard, still blindfolded. Around her lay the remains of three machines that had been considered unbeatable. Then the cheering started. It began with Jinwoo and Hyejin in the preparation area. Then instructor Kalnith joined in. Soon, entire sections of the crowd were on their feet, roaring approval. Nari pulled off her blindfold and looked around the arena. Beings from dozens of species were applauding. Not all of them. Some looked shocked or disturbed. But many were cheering. Director Velnoth's voice came over the arena speakers. Combat assessment complete. Victor, Cadet Lee Nari of Earth. The cheering grew louder. Furthermore, the director continued, his voice carrying a note of what might have been respect. The Academy Review Board hereby lifts all restrictions on human participation in galactic military training. Nari smiled and raised her hand to acknowledge the crowd. But her mind was already moving beyond this moment. This was just the beginning. Now she had to prove that humans could not only fight, but fight for the right reasons. And that would be the hardest battle of all. The victory celebration lasted 3 days. News of Nari's triumph spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace communications. For the first time in over a century, humans were being discussed not as dangerous primitives, but as potential allies. Nari found herself at the center of attention she never wanted. Reporters from dozens of worlds requested interviews. Military recruiters offered commissions. Academy officials who had ignored her for months suddenly wanted to discuss her unique perspective on combat doctrine. "You're famous," Jinwoo said, showing her his datapad. "Look at these headlines. Deathworlder defeats the unbeatable. Human warrior revolutionizes combat theory. The blindfolded victory that shook the galaxy." Nari sat in her quarters, still wearing her formal uniform from the latest interview session. "I don't feel famous. I feel tired." "That's because you're not done yet," said Instructor Kalnith from the doorway. "Director Velnoth wants to see you." The director's office looked different somehow. Brighter. The crystal furniture seemed to glow with warmth instead of cold authority. Director Velnoth himself appeared younger, though that might have been Nari's imagination. "Cadet Nari," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "Or should I say, Lieutenant Nari?" Nari blinked in surprise. "Sir, your demonstration has prompted several immediate changes in Academy policy," Director Velnoth explained. "First, you've been promoted to lieutenant and assigned as an instructor in our new Combat Innovation Department." "I'm not qualified to be an instructor, sir." "You just defeated 3 unbeatable opponents while blindfolded," the director said with what was definitely a smile. "I think you're qualified." "What's the Combat Innovation Department?" "A new program designed to study unconventional warfare techniques. We've realized that our commitment to traditional combat doctrine may have made us inflexible." Nari leaned forward. "What kind of techniques?" "Human techniques," Director Velnoth said simply. "Adaptive tactics, improvised strategy, asymmetric warfare. All the things we once considered uncivilized." "And the other species agree with this?" "Not all of them," the director admitted. "But your victory has started conversations that were overdue. The Vrathan High Command wants to study human small unit tactics. The Lasari Council is interested in what they call controlled chaos theory. Even the Nereid Admiralty is asking about psychological warfare applications." Nari felt a mixture of pride and concern. "Sir, I hope they understand that humans don't fight because we enjoy violence. We fight to protect things we care about." "That," Director Velnoth said, "is exactly why we need you as an instructor, to make sure they understand the difference." Over the following weeks, everything changed. The first group of new human cadets arrived from Earth and the colonial worlds. Nari watched them step off the transport ships with the same mixture of excitement and fear she had felt months ago. "Remember," she told Jinwoo as they prepared for the first integrated combat class, "we're not here to prove humans are better fighters. We're here to prove we can make everyone better fighters." The new training program was unlike anything the Academy had seen before. Human and alien students worked together, learning from each other's strengths. Lasari students discovered that human adaptability could enhance their graceful techniques. Vrathan cadets found that human creativity improved their tactical thinking. Nereid trainees learned that human intuition could supplement their analytical approach. But the most important change was philosophical. "Combat is not about demonstrating superiority," Nari explained to her first class, which included students from 6 different species. "It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves." A young Lysari cadet raised her hand. "But humans are known for their aggression. How do we know when protection becomes conquest?" It was a fair question, and Nari had thought about it often. "Because humans also have something else that makes us different," she said. "Empathy. We can imagine what it feels like to be hurt, to be afraid, to need help. That's what makes human warriors different from human soldiers." "I don't understand." "The distinction," said a Vrathan student. "A soldier fights because they're ordered to," Nari explained. "A warrior fights because they choose to. And a human warrior fights because someone needs them to." She gestured to the mixed group of students. "Look around this room. We're all different species with different abilities. But we all chose to be here. We all want to protect others. That shared purpose is more important than any fighting technique." The classes continued to evolve. Nari taught human tactics, but she also learned from her alien students. Lycery discipline helped her channel her aggression more effectively. Vrathan coordination improved her strategic thinking. Nereid patience taught her when not to fight. Most importantly, she saw her students doing the same thing. They weren't becoming more human or more alien. They were becoming better versions of themselves. Prince Zekthul was one of the most surprising changes. The arrogant Lysari noble who had once mocked Nari as a primitive Deathworlder now sought her advice on combat techniques. "I don't understand how you do it," he said after a particularly challenging sparring session. "When we fight, I can see what you're going to do 3 moves ahead, but by the time I react, you've already changed the plan." "That's because you're thinking like a chess player," Nari explained. "You're planning moves in advance. Humans think more like improvisational musicians. We have a basic melody, but we change it as we go." "Can you teach me to think that way?" Nari smiled. "I can teach you to try. But remember, the goal isn't to fight like a human. It's to fight like the best version of yourself." 6 months after her blindfolded victory, Nari received a message that changed everything again. It came directly from Earth's government, with priority routing through the Galactic Communications Network. The Earth Defense Force officially requests Lieutenant Li Nari for transfer to active duty, she read aloud to Jinwoo and Hyejin. Assignment: First Officer, EDF Starship Harmony. Mission: Joint Species Patrol Fleet, Outer Rim Territories. Jinwoo whistled softly. The Harmony is one of the new integrated ships, human crew working with alien partners. And the Outer Rim Patrol, Hyejin added. That's where the real action is. Pirates, smugglers, rogue AI fleets. Nari looked at her friends. "What do you think?" "I think," Jinwoo said, "that you've done what you came here to do. You've proven humans belong in galactic military service." "More than that," Hyejin said. "You've shown them how to be better." Nari made her decision that evening. She would accept the transfer, but not alone. She recommended Jinwoo for the Harmony's tactical officer position and requested that Hyejin be assigned as cultural liaison. More importantly, she recommended that the Academy's integrated training program be expanded to all military institutions across the galaxy. Her final day at the Academy was bittersweet. Students and instructors gathered to see her off, including many who had once viewed her with suspicion or fear. Director Vel Noth presented her with a commendation that would be placed in the Academy's Hall of Honor. "For services to Galactic A, military education, and the advancement of interspecies cooperation," he read. But the moment that meant the most came from Instructor Kalneth. The old Vrathan warrior approached her privately before the ceremony. "You have given my people something we had forgotten," he said quietly. "What's that, sir?" "The courage to change," he said. "We had become so focused on perfection that we forgot about improvement. You reminded us that the best warriors are not those who never lose, but those who never stop learning." As Nari's transport lifted off from the Academy, she looked down at the training facilities where she had spent so many months proving herself. New groups of mixed-species students were practicing in the courtyards, learning from each other, growing stronger together. She thought about the long journey ahead. The Outer Rim was dangerous territory, full of threats that would test everything she had learned. But she wouldn't be facing those challenges alone. She would have human friends and alien allies beside her. Most importantly, she would have a purpose worth fighting for, protecting those who needed protection, regardless of what species they were or what world they came from. The Academy grew smaller behind them, but its influence would spread across the galaxy. Not because humans had proven they were the best warriors, but because they had proven that diversity made everyone stronger. And, in the end, that was the most human victory of all.